you've got, tell me what it is that you want.
I've got multiple fire experiences.
Right. And the belief, the tabletop that we're looking at is the core belief that's come from
The world is not a particularly safe place.
Yeah, the world's not a safe place, okay. And you've worked on some of these today, some of them. What's one that stands out to you now when you think about the world's not a safe place and the fires?
Okay, summer is coming.
Mm-hmm.
The climate is changing.
Yep.
They have just told us, the scanmongers on the TV, that there'll be 30% more fires in southeastern Australia by 2020.
Mm-hmm. So you just saw that on a news report?
Yeah, that was last night or the night before.
Okay, all right. Let's go to that for a start, all right? Because that's an incident straight away that's fresh in your mind.
Yeah, and there's all this fire around Sydney where they've got lots and lots of flames on the TV.
Okay.
Not that I try to stay away from it, of course.
Yeah, even though I tried to stay away from it.
Even though I try to stay away from it.
When they've got fires on TV.
When they've got fires on TV.
But I got to see it last night.
And I got to see it last night.
And I heard all the statistics.
And I heard all the statistics.
And summer's coming up.
And summer's coming up.
And they're predicting 30% more fires.
And they're predicting 30% more fires.
I accept myself.
I accept myself.
And all the fears that are coming up in me.
And all the fears that are coming up in me.
After all, the world's not a safe place.
After all, the world is not a safe place.
And I know that from experience.
I know that from lots of experience.
I've been in fire danger.
I have been in fire danger.
I've seen the results.
I have seen the results.
I've been in survival mode.
I've been in survival mode.
I've still got that fight or flight response going on in my body.
I still have that fight or flight response going in my body.
Just like when I watched TV last night.
Just like when I watched TV last night.
I accept myself.
I accept myself.
And all my body's reactions.
And all my body's reactions.
The world's not a safe place.
The world is not a safe place.
Especially where I live.
Especially where I live. Especially where I choose to live.
Especially where I choose to live. I love the bush.
I love the bush.
But the world's not a safe place.
The world is not a safe place.
No wonder I live in the bush.
No wonder
Where there's lots of fires. Where there's the potential of fires.
There is potential for fires.
Yes. And I love the bush.
And I love the bush.
But the world's not a safe place.
No part of the world is a safe place.
Mm-hmm. And I particularly don't feel safe around summer.
I particularly don't feel safe around summer.
Where I live.
Where I live.
Especially when I see the news report.
Especially when I see the news report.
Like I did last night.
Like I did last night.
Predicting 30% more fires.
Predicting 30% more fires.
And the reaction in my body.
And the reaction in my body.
When I see all those flames on TV.
When I see all of those flames on TV.
When they showed all the fires in Sydney.
When they showed all of the fires in Sydney.
All my reactions and responses.
All my reactions and responses.
In my body.
In my body.
All the alarms going off in my body.
All the alarms going off in my body.
Be prepared.
Go and start the lawnmower.
Yeah. Yes. All the things I'm thinking I have to do.
All the things I'm thinking I have to do.
They're telling everyone to have a fire plan.
Whatever that is, yeah. They're telling everyone to have a fire plan.
They never give you real instructions.
No. Running away first. Is really good instruction.
Yeah. And I can still feel that fight or flight response in my body.
I can still feel that flight or fight response in my body.
That confusion.
Not confusion.
What is it?
It's a state of sort of hyper alertness.
Yep. And where do you feel that in your body? Is it your whole body?
In the chest. In the solar plexus.
And the solar plexus. So go to the time when you felt that.
Here.
The jaw tightens.
Jaw tightens, yeah.
Okay, so go to the time when you felt that.
Go to the time when I felt that.
Yeah.
You mean last night watching the TV?
Yeah. Did you feel it last night watching the TV?
Some, yeah.
Yeah. And when was the first time you felt that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I felt that when I was 4 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I had forgotten that.
Yeah.
And because I had what to me, even to me, was an exaggerated response to the 83 fires, at some point I came across a kinesiologist who put me on the table. She was working on my husband.
Yeah.
And she said, your turn. And she got me by the wrist and she said, 4 years and 3 months. And I thought, back 4 years and 3 months? No. She said 4 years and 3 months of age. And we had left the farm a matter of 3 or 4 weeks before. And the whole area was devastated with fire. The house where I had grown up was not burnt down. My father hadn't got a job in the town at that stage. There we go. And he undertook the mail run because the mailman's van had been burnt out.
Go through the points while you tell me.
Okay. And because I was not at school, he took me with him. So there was 4-year-old Elizabeth going through this burnt out landscape with the sheep roasted in the paddocks, the fences down, the people all shocked. The whole world as I knew it, blackened. Okay. Now I had forgotten that. But when we got another fire, all right, and there was everything black and there was lots and lots of smoke and lots of sparks coming off things and everything had gone completely to hell.
Remembered it all.
It came up in the guts, didn't it? Now, when I absorbed all of that, this is going back some time because I've been working on it, I went after another fire and I got a fire right back, I think, sort of at the dawn of time. This is past life stuff. And I was at the edge of a pine forest, a spruce forest or something. It looked like Canada, and there was a river running around a curve so that there was a sandbar, and I was fishing from the sandbar alone, and a bear came and assaulted me on my shoulder. Sorry, here we go. The bear came and assaulted my shoulder and lacerated it severely. And I went back into my hut in the woods and I used a coal from the fire that I had to cauterise the wound. And I died of the shock and blood loss in that.
Okay, so when you say there's those stories, there's two of them now, right? So there's the one that you believe is past life, that has got energy around it.
It's got energy around it.
Yeah, and there's also energy around the 4-year-old one.
Yeah.
Which one's got the most energy?
The 4-year-old one.
So I want us to go to that table leg first,
Yeah.
all right? Even though I've got this 4-year-old experience.
Even though I've got this 4-year-old experience.
When I was on Dad's mail run with him.
When I was on the mail run with Dad.
And my world as I knew it.
And my world as I knew it.
All my beautiful green world.
All my beautiful green world.
Had turned to black.
Had turned to black.
And I didn't understand.
And I didn't understand.
My whole world had changed.
My whole world had changed.
Everyone around me had changed.
Everyone around me had changed.
I can still smell the black.
I can still smell the roasted sheep.
The roasted sheep.
I can smell the black, the blackened grass and trees.
I can still see it.
I can still see it.
I can still feel it in the gut.
I can still feel it in the guts.
I accept myself.
I accept myself.
Deeply and completely.
Deeply and completely.
I've still got this 4-year-old experience trapped in my body.
I still have this 4-year-old experience trapped in my body.
This 4-year-old didn't know what was going on.
I'm not so sure about that. The 4-year-old may have had some appreciation of what was going on.
Her whole world had changed overnight.
Her whole world had changed overnight.
She can still smell that.
She can still smell
cooked lamb.
Yes. And she can still see the shock in the faces of the people that she was familiar with.
Yeah. So is there anyone in particular she can see the shock in the faces?
The postmistress, yeah.
Yeah. Seeing the shock in the face of the postmistress.
Seeing the shock in the face of the postmistress.
She was just a little girl.
She was just a little girl.
She hadn't seen shock in people's faces before.
She had seen nothing like this before. She had not seen the adults brought into helplessness. And that was shocking more than anything, that they were disempowered completely.
Seeing the shock in their faces.
Seeing the shock in their faces.
She'd never seen adults in shock like that before.
Never seen adults in shock like that before.
In helplessness.
In helplessness.
Did she still feel that in the gut? Seeing her face, that postmistress's face.
There's some of it there, yes.
Yeah. Feeling that shock in her body.
Shock In her body, in my body.
Yeah.
In her body.
In her body.
Yeah. In her
That's
body.
still trapped in my body.
That's still trapped in my body.
When she was looking at the postmistress
When she was looking at the postmistress
and seeing her shock and despair
and seeing her shock and distress.
and distress, yeah.
Yeah.
All that shock and distress in all the adults' faces.
All that shock and distress in all the adults' faces.
She'd never seen it before,
She'd never seen it before.
and it scared her.
The kinesiologist said something interesting.
Mm-hmm.
She said, all by yourself,
Mm-hmm.
at the age of 40, you took responsibility for everything.
Mm-hmm. That's what the kinesiologist said. What about you, that 4-year-old?
That resonated with me.
Mm-hmm.
The 4-year-old was cognizant that there was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
It
And
wasn't
where was
just
she
that-
feeling it in her body? Because 4-year-olds don't think so much in their minds.
Yeah.
So that's very much cognitising it all. What did she feel when she looked in that postmistress's face and saw that fear and despair?
She wanted to help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She was shocked also, of course,
Yeah.
but there was her own shock
Mm-hmm.
because of the environmental things as well as the people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so even though
It
that
wasn't, it
4-year-old...
wasn't a wipeout sort of shock.
Mm-hmm. Even though there was shock in that 4-year-old's body,
Even though there was shock in that 4-year-old's body,
and it's still trapped in my body,
it's still trapped in my body.
she didn't know how to help.
She didn't know how to help.
She felt helpless and alone,
She felt helpless and alone,
just like the adults did.
just like the adults did.
She could feel their pain.
She could feel their pain.
She could feel their despair
She could feel their despair
and their shock.
and their shock.
I accept myself
I accept myself
and all the feelings of this 4-year-old
and all of the feelings of this 4-year-old
that are still trapped in my body,
that are still trapped in my body.
and I want to help her release them,
And I want to help her release them. Oh boy, do I.
thereby releasing them in me too.
And release them in me.
Mm-hmm. I want to step back in time,
I want to step back in time,
all the way back to that 4-year-old,
all the way back to that 4-year-old.
when she was seeing the despair and shock,
When she was seeing the despair and the shock,
looking at that postmistress,
looking at that postmistress.
and I want to freeze everything around her
I want to freeze everything around her
and look into her eyes
and look into her eyes
and let her know everything's going to be okay.
and let her know everything's going to be okay.
They'll be okay.
They will be okay.
She's safe,
She's safe.
and I'm here to help her.
I'm here to help her.
I'm here to help her release her shock
I'm here to help her release her shock
out of her body,
out of her body,
even when she looks at the postmistress
even when she looks at the postmistress
and feels the postmistress's shock,
and feels the postmistress's shock,
tapping on that little 4-year-old,
tapping on that little 4-year-old,
letting her know she's not alone.
letting her know she's not alone.
She's not alone.
She's not alone.
I'm here with her,
I'm here with her,
letting her feel safe,
letting her feel safe,
reassuring her she's safe now,
reassuring her she's safe now,
tapping out all the trauma out of her body
tapping out all of the trauma out of her body
that she felt when she looked at the postmistress,
that she felt when she looked at the postmistress,
out of her guts,
out of her guts,
out of all of her energy,
out of all of her energy,
tapping in that she's safe now,
tapping in that she's safe now,
letting her feel safe,
letting her feel safe,
letting her know everyone will be okay now.
letting her know that everyone will be okay now.
Mm-hmm. So take a deep breath. When you think of that 4-year-old now, looking into the eyes of and the face of the postmistress, how's she feeling now?
She's feeling confused still,
Mm-hmm.
Oliver. She's feeling that she wants to help, she wants to pat or to do something.
Okay, so is it okay with her if we help them by tapping on them?
That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So let her know we're going to help, thanking her for helping us help them.
Yeah.
And now we're going to tap on the postmistress
Okay.
and everyone else that she's seen shock in there.
Okay. That's great. Yeah.
So even though she's feeling shock
even though she's feeling shocked.
And she's feeling confused.
She's feeling confused.
And she wants to help, but she doesn't know how.
She wants to help, but she doesn't know how.
I'm going to let her watch me help them.
I'm going to let her watch me help them.
And thank her for suggesting that I can help.
And thank her for suggesting that I can help.
And one by one,
I'll
go around and tap them all.
go around and tap them all.
Releasing all their trauma.
Releasing all their trauma.
All their confusion.
All their confusion.
All their despair.
All their despair.
Allowing them to be able to get on with things.
Allowing them to be able to get on with things.
After they've released all their trauma.
After they've released all their trauma.
Allowing them to feel safe.
Allowing them to feel safe.
All their despair.
All their despair.
All their trauma.
All their trauma.
All their shock.
All their shock.
Their need to want to run.
Their need to want to run.
Allowing them to process it and feel safe.
Allowing them to process it and feel safe.
But still be aware.
But still be aware.
But process the trauma.
But process the trauma.
Mm-hmm. So, when you tune into that little 4-year-old now, and she's seen everyone be tapped on, and they're all calmed down, and their trauma's been released, and she feels like she's helped by getting an adult to help them.
And somebody's doing something, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How's she feeling now?
She's feeling better about it. She's feeling that the situation is gathering itself back together because of that sort of...
Yes.
The devastation is that it's out of control. It's all just fragmented. This is coming back together now, so that it's
more peace and
coherent.
control. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when you tune into your body now, when you think about last night watching the news and seeing the flames and the blackness
and the shock in the faces
and the shock in the faces of the people, is that registering in you? Is it hitting you in the guts now, or is it less?
Not in the guts.
Anywhere?
Yeah. It's in here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably tears there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So even though my body is processing,
and there's something across the back of my head. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Even though my body is processing the shock,
even though my body is processing the shock,
and the 4-year-old's helping me,
the 4-year-old's helping me. Good girl.
I accept myself.
I accept myself.
And the way my body's processing the sadness.
And the way my body is processing the sadness.
Across my face.
Across my face.
And the back of my head.
And the back of my head.
I want to process and release this.
I want to process and release this.
It's time to feel safe.
It's time to feel safe.
And still have awareness.
And still have awareness.
But release all the trauma.
Release the trauma. But
Right.
remain prudent.
Yeah, remain prudent and aware.
Prudent and aware.
I accept myself deeply and completely.
I accept myself deeply and completely.
Thanking my body
Thanking
for protecting me.
For protecting me.
Allowing my body to process it.
Allowing my body to process it.
Processing the sadness.
Processing the sadness.
From across my face.
From across my face.
And at the back of my
and
head.
at the back of my head.
All the confusion.
All the confusion.
I can be prudent.
I can be prudent.
And aware.
And aware.
And safe at the same
and
time.
safe at the same time.
And I choose to release all the sadness.
I choose to release all of the sadness.
And the trauma.
And the trauma.
When I remember the news
When
last
I remember
night,
the news last night.
seeing their faces.
Seeing their faces.
Seeing the blackness.
Seeing the blackness.
Seeing the flames.
Seeing the flames.
Releasing that from my body.
Releasing that from my body.
I can still be safe.
I can still be safe.
And feel safe.
And feel safe.
And be prudent.
And be prudent.
So when you tune into that now, seeing the news last night and saying this, 30% risk of 30% more fires, and seeing the fires in Sydney and the blackness and the flames and the looks on people's faces.
Yeah.
How is that now?
That's feeling better.
Mm-hmm.
It's feeling that the need to pay attention is still there.
Yes.
You can't deny
Yes.
that there's a risk.
Yes.
But you can face that risk in a reasonable manner.
Yeah. Without the trauma.
Without the trauma.
The trauma and the fear and the shaking in the body. In fact, you can be even more clear when the trauma's out of the body to be more prudent and to be
Yes.
able to think more clearly.
Yes. And
Because you haven't got that fight or flight response going
to
on.
make better plans, to not
Yes.
not dash about and rush up and down ladders.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that was just a short example, but how we looked at the tabletop of the world isn't safe. So when you think about the world not being safe, has that come down a bit now? Because that was 10 out of 10.
That has come down.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah. So that it's quite clear that you have to rely upon the safety of the world moment by moment in order to stay relatively sane.
Mm-hmm.
You can't not believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, but
So you don't have to override it with the belief that it's unsafe.
Yeah.
Certain aspects are,
Yeah.
become unsafe at certain times.
Yeah.
And you manage those.
Mm.
Mm.
Yep. Cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So that was just a short example of, the tabletop and a couple of the examples of the legs. So we went to something that was really recent. So the recent thing was last night, which took us then to the earliest one. And notice how, and of course there was a past life one that we could work on as well, but there's many table legs.
Yeah.
We don't have time to look at all of them at the moment. But that's why I asked which one's got the most energy in it.
Yeah.
So always go to the one that's holding the most energy.
Mm.
And don't pick it for yourself.
Yeah.
So the one that had the most energy was the 4-year-old.
Yeah. I've done work on the inner child sort of on a staged process over time, and there was always a gap, a difference in the child's psyche between 4 and 5.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who are into blaming their parents, I blame my mother for that. Mum must have done something or other. But in fact, I think that the difference was between the child that was innocent and hadn't seen this sort of thing, and the child that had
innocence. Yeah.
had lost that. Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Interesting how we.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.